Hello and welcome to this special program on the Ethiopian Broadcasting Corporation. Ethiopia is preparing to host the 38th Africa Union Summit where leaders from across the continent gather to discuss Africa's future. As those leaders convene in Addis Ababa, the question how Africa can achieve through political and economic unity remains pressing more than ever before. Dr. Seife Tadelle, a scholar and an advocate for Africa unity, has proposed a new model of governance that is rooted in indigenous African knowledge systems. Today, we sit down with him to explore his ideas and their relevance to the Africa Union Summit here in Addis Ababa. Doctor, thank you very much for joining us to this interview.
Thank you, Dems, for having me.
The idea of pan-Africanism and Africa unity has been an agenda for a long time. How do you see the progress of this notion so far?
Let me take you back a bit. You know, before Pan-Africanism, there were Pan-Europeanism and Pan-Arabism throughout the world. You know, people, they might think Pan-Africanism is a unique for Africans, but it has been there in a number of continents. But Pan-Europeanism, it achieved European Union. And the overall objective of Pan-Africanism, it should be to create, and just to give a good a living standard for Africans. That's the way I take it. But Pan-Africanism came through different historical and intellectual process. It was a complex journey for the last, I can say, a century during the colonial era and post-colonial Africa.
Well, in the very outset of this discussion, we said you have introduced a new model based on indigenous African knowledge systems. What makes it indigenous?
Look, when we developed this indigenous model, we went back all the way to pre-colonial Africa and somehow also the colonial era and some practices also in post-colonial Africa. So when you look at the pre-colonial Africa, it was pretty much governed by local people with the horizontal structure, and in some African countries also regions there were vertical structures. So we took a number of local knowledge. For example, in Ethiopia we do have a different kind of models which we know. One of which is Dabo. Dabo is working together for a collective good. And Mojo Jamaat, Mojo Oda is the first strata, which is practiced in Kenya, Tanzania, and also the southern part of Ethiopia. So these are the models which we were looking. And on the third level, or the supranational level, we took Mojo Jama, that is, which can create, a familyhood of different countries. So these are the three models which we took from indigenous model of the pre-colonial and colonial Africa. Yeah, we Africans, we tried different models, especially which is driven by Eurocentric models, and unless we change our roots, we can't bring change which we all aspire to be united as a country, and just to give a best living standard for our citizens. So my message to African leaders is we have to re-engineer the current institutional framework in order to achieve the aspiration of the African people. The aspiration is to be considered as a world citizen and equal citizen with the rest of the world.
Doctor, how do you describe the contribution of the existing Africa's regional blocs in terms of fostering Africa's integration?
When you talk about the current regional integration, we're talking about the Lagos Plan of Action and the Abuja Treaty. So the Abuja Treaty, as you remember, it divided the continent into 5 places, including the diaspora, the 6th region. So the 5 regions are, as you know, it's West Africa, North Africa, East Africa, Central and Southern Africa. But this is a very bulky approach. It couldn't able to consider, the common consanguinity of the people and similar economical models of certain countries, and it couldn't consider, the diversity of the people in this context. So let me give you a practical example. If you look at ECOWAS, it comprises like 15 countries, but some of which are in the geographical context. They are in Central Africa, and some of even the time zone are different within the member countries. So also there are contestation within the Western Africans, who is big economy, who has a strong political and democratic governance and so on. So we have to look, re-engineer this model. Similarly, I can give you SADC, Southern African Development Community, which comprise similar number like 15 African countries. But it comes all the way to DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo. But if you look at the geographical space of DRC, that's which constitutes with the Central Africa. But for information, DRC also a member of EAC. That is create a number of confusion and multi-membership and overlapping membership throughout this exercise. So we have to look, what are the challenges? Not only, being a multiple, membership. There are a number of challenges in terms of, it can be security, it can be achieving, a proper governance system, it can be achieving, economic interaction and trading among member countries. So these are the challenge which, pushed me just to reconstruct and just to decolonize the idea of Eurocentric idea, which was imposed for a long time.
So apart from the ramifications related to regional blocks within Africa, what general and specific challenges do you mention as a challenge for Africa unification?
Proximity is one. I think this is a wonderful question. One of the challenge of this, the current regs is it's a proximity. Look, let me give you one example. Madagascar is far from East Africa, but even in this current contestation of African Union chairmanship, I can give you a simple example. These three gentlemen, they came from different tracks, but they are galvanized by East African bloc. Let me give you, Madagascar is a member of SADC. So the candidate came from Southern Africa. But the original blockage, mapping of Abuja Treaty, Madagascar is under East Africa. Let me give you the second one, the Kenyan representative Odinga. He is a member of EAC, East African Community, but he is representing East Africa. Of course, Kenya is in East Africa. And the third one is from Djibouti. He represents IGAD, a different regs all the way. But he represents through the Abuja Treaty, the Eastern Bloc. So the contradictions are many. I can tell you a number of contradictions in this regard. Also, the confusion between SADC and COMESA. COMESA, as you know, it's started just to facilitate, the SADC, EAC, and IGAD. It developed from PTA, preferential trade areas. And now it goes all the way to Egypt. But COMESA, naturally, it was established to organize, trading facility among East African and Southern Africa. So the confusions in this, what do you call it, the current regs are multiple. Let me give you another example. We do have more than 22 regs which are recognized and unrecognized. The recognized regs are 8 currently, which we have. There are unrecognized 11 regional economic communities. And let me give you a specific example for this, which will give you a context. For example, SACWA, Southern Africa Customs Union, which comprises South Africa, Lesotho, Swaziland, Namibia, and Botswana. This is, for my model, I consider it as a Southern Africa. But SACWA is not considered or recognized by the African Union. The African Union recognized Seine-Sad, which comprise like almost 19 countries. But this regs, it doesn't exist for the last almost 10 years. Even it doesn't have office because it was established by the former president of Libya, Mohammed Gaddafi. That was his initiative. So you can see a failure of AU even to examine and to audit its own regional economic communities. I think let me add you one more point. There is no direct relationship between regional economic communities and African Union. That's a very symbolic. They are attached with memorandum of understanding. It doesn't have any hierarchy to implement whatever resolution made by the African Union. So this is the biggest challenge to come up or to implement, whatever, let's say, silencing the gun, or AFCTA, or freedom of movement, or free visa for Africans, one passport. You can name a number of climate change. So there are several challenges in this regard. So we have to come up with a solid foundation. One regional, one double, one country should be a member of one sub-regional blocks. Otherwise, it will complicate the entire system. That's why I came up with a theory just to divide Africa into 12 different blocks based on common consanguinity, based on historical relevance, psychological makeup, philosophical aspiration, political and economic relevance in so many ways, and socio-cultural context. These are the six, what I call it, the 6 pillars: historical, psychological, philosophical, political, economic, and socio-cultural variables. These are the way how we can constitute a regional economic community. Yeah.
Many African countries have been struggling between national sovereignty and collective development. So how your model can address in terms of alleviating this kind of problem?
You touched the heart of the whole model. The very challenge, actually we miss that point, the very challenge of Africa is a confusion between national sovereignty and collective sovereignty. So that started when our forefathers, when they established the organization of African unity. They brought directly Eurocentric model of Westphalian philosophy. It created a big confusion. National, all member states, they are more sovereign or very elastic sovereignty, which nobody can touch it or claim it, that level of sovereignty. So this sovereignty, it should be changed to the collective sovereignty. In other words, they have to give their sovereignty to the supranational entity. That is the way how we can resolve the entire African debates.
Peace and stability have been a top agenda in every Africa Union summit. So how your new model can contribute in terms of bringing lasting peace and stability in Africa?
Yeah, that's the very important question. One of the challenges, even just to develop, economic model, you have to be peace and stability and tranquility among member countries. So you have to divide into 3 levels. One is at national level, what we call it is Mojo order. The second one is at double level, the security apparatus. And the third one is at the supranational level. So, as you know, the African Union, they came up with a security architecture. But the challenge is the implementation part. So, unless we have, a security architecture which works for to stabilize local politics, to stabilize sub-regional politics and supranational entity, we can't go anywhere far in bringing, peace and stability in the continent. So once we have this, the different structure of security apparatus, we can resolve, the security issue, which was, an obstacle for a long time, in our lifetime, I think, for the last 60 or 70 years, especially in post-colonial Africa. So the very issue is to establish sub-regional security apparatus which can control and manage the security and the movement of people to make it in a very peaceful way. That is how we can maintain our peace. You know, peace is very important just to do, you know, our economic development, also political transformation in the continent. That's the central point for our development.
Of course, Africa has already set Agenda 2063 that has Africa unification as a main agenda. Do you think Africa can achieve integration by the end of 2063?
That's a $1 million question. I mean, let me take you back with regarding, you know, the silencings again. When we adopt the African agenda of 2023, we projected by 2020 silencing the gun just to be implemented. But it's a far-fetched or a pipe of dream, such kind of, what do you call it, program. We couldn't even achieve, you know, any sort of peace. As you know, Sudan is in a challenge, Somalia, even our country, Ethiopia, even after 2020. The Sahel region, DRC Congo is currently they are in problem. So that means Agenda 2026 it couldn't able to achieve its goal. Most probably, I mean, the one which I'm telling you, it's the implementation mechanism. There was no a clear roadmap how to silence, you know, the gun. So this model, the one which I'm talking about, it should be a pragmatic move, whatever plan you have to implement throughout the continent, whether you call it peace or development or economic advancement or intra-Africa trade. Yeah, that's the way I look at it. Yeah.
So, what recommendations, Doctor, do you recommend to African leaders who hold their discussions here in Addis Ababa in terms of uniting Africa? What concrete steps they have to follow now?
You know, my message is very clear. One of the things is we have to sit different, you know, scholars, the civil society, political parties, the concerned citizens to come up with a solid foundation of theory, which can give us, you know, a mandate to reconstruct, you know, the Africa we want. That is the way it should be. And it should be all, I mean, the proposal, it should be also people-centric. We have to move from a state-led to people-led movement. That is when we can achieve our goal. And I always say, rather than looking United States of Africa, I'm looking to establish United People of Africa. The people should move forward to bring, you know, the African unification for the sake of their livelihood, for their well-being. That's the way we have to move. So African leaders, in one way or another, they have to listen to their people, and we have to give, you know, a mandate properly at national level, sub-regional level, and continental level. So the people can be heard, and in the process, I think we can bring, you know, the African unification which we all aspire for a long time. Yeah.
You have, of course, contributed a study that introduces new model for Africa's unification. So how you make it practical and get noticed by policymakers? What efforts have you exerted so far in terms of doing so?
No, this is a wonderful question. Look, even the current African Union Commission, it doesn't have, you know, a big mandate to implement such kind of big ideas. So member states, they have to take, you know, responsibility. It can be South Africa, Ethiopia, Kenya, Egypt, Senegal, Nigeria. One of these countries, they have to endorse and they have to table it to the African leaders to restructure and to re-engineer the current model, and which can be worked for all of us. That is the way we have to go with the story. But as intermediate level, we can also work with the current, the upcoming chairperson who will take the chairmanship in the coming weeks. That's also another way of implementing the idea.
Dr. Seife Tadelle, thank you very much for your thought-provoking and enlightening explanations.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Dear viewers, thank you very much for joining us in this enlightening discussion. This is Ethiopian Broadcasting Corporation, the voice of Pan-Africanism, and I am your host, Demis Makwao. See you next time with another edition.